First, let me show you what you get in the box. First of all, you have a few little goodies like a couple of furry little wing guards, a TRRS to TRRS cable, a shoe mount for mounting the receiver to a DSLR or make milk happen, and a charging cable for this box. Inside the box you get 2 mics and 1 receiver, and the box itself is multifunctional as it stores, pairs and charges everything. And in order for me to want to replace the Rode SmartLav Plus and my Evistar recorder, this 𝐀𝐜𝐴 set needs to be really easy to set up and use, because with this I literally just plug it into my recorder, I hit record, I can see my levels on the screen, I can adjust them with these 2 buttons. It's very simple and easy for someone like me to do. Thankfully then, the 𝐀𝐜𝐴 set is very easy for me to set up. I literally just turn on the receiver, turn on a mic, plug the receiver into my phone, and I'm ready to record. That's it. And if I want to use my Sony a7 III, I just mount the receiver to the camera, plug in the TRRS cable, and again, that's it. I'm ready to go. But let's rewind for a second and go into more detail. So when I open the box, I can see the battery life for the 2 mics and the receiver here on the receiver itself, which is nice and convenient. Then I turn the receiver on, which takes a second, and you can see the 2 mics, which are both currently off. And when I turn one on, it'll pair automatically, and I can see the signal strength, battery life, volume, and audio levels, which is everything I need. And while they've always paired automatically for me, if they don't for you, just literally put everything in the box, long press on this button, and they should pair. Now, you might have noticed that the on and off switches on the mics themselves have an S and a D, and this is really cool. The S stands for Simplex, and this is one-way audio transmission. So audio is sent from the mic to the receiver, and you can plug a pair of 3.5mm headphones into the receiver to check that it sounds alright. And this is pretty standard stuff. But D is Duplex, and Duplex is two-way audio transmission. This means the receiver will also transmit back to the mic. Why do you want that? Well, the mics also have a 3.5mm headphone jack built in, so when you're out filming alone, it might not be practical to go over to your camera to check the audio. So this allows you to check from the mic itself. This is extremely useful for a lone physique like me, and it works really well. So with either S or D selected, the next thing I need to do is make sure I'm in mono and not stereo. If you're recording with 2 mics and 2 people, then putting it in stereo will give you 1 audio track per mic. But if you're just using 1 mic and you put it in stereo, then you're going to get just 1 audio track. So put it in mono if you're by yourself. Next, I plug the receiver into my iPhone, and this little icon will change to confirm it's connected. But you may have to take your phone out of its case in order to ensure a proper connection. Now, I have a Moment case, and I wouldn't describe this as a particularly thick case, but with it on, it doesn't connect properly. I have to take my phone out of the case, which I don't really like to do. I like my fancy, expensive iPhone 12 Pro protected, but it's not a deal breaker, and once the receiver is connected, it should just work. You can open the stock camera app, press record in the video, and it'll be recording with your 𝐀𝐜𝐴 Bluetooth mic. Or you can open like a third-party app like Beastcam, Filmic Pro, or Moment, something like that, and go in and fine-tune the gain. And the microphones themselves also have a volume built in, so you get 1 to 4. Anyway, everything is really easy, really quick to set up, very intuitive, but none of that matters if it doesn't work, if the sound quality just isn't there. So let's see how it does. Now, before you listen to these clips, I recommend, if you've not already, put on a pair of headphones. That way you can really hear the differences in the clips. You can hear the nuances and what it really sounds like. So you can get a good, accurate representation of how these mics performs. Here's the clips. So now the stereo goes away. The The best way I found to get rid of people staring when you're out filming is to either ignore them, or I was going to say stare back at them, but the problem is when you stare back, it invites them to stay, because people's egos are so, especially when they've decided that you owe them this. I don't know, when they've decided, I'm going to be your audience, I have the right to be your audience, I have the right to stand here and watch you because your camera gives me that right. When I see someone without a camera, I wouldn't just stand and stare at them. However, you have a camera and you're putting yourself out there to that camera, so therefore I gain extra rights because of that camera. So that was a typical outdoor filming situation for me, just like sat in a field somewhere, very, very light breeze. Other than that, like the recording conditions were perfect. And as a quick aside, I'm not saying that the Rode SmartLav Plus and the EVStar recorder are like direct competitors for the 𝐀𝐜𝐴 set. That is just the set that I currently use and I'm going to be like considering replacing with the 𝐀𝐜𝐴 set. That's why I'm using these for a comparison. And I can't offer you some deep technical analysis of how the mics sound or why they sound like they do. All I can do is just present the results to you and give you my opinion. So unprocessed with the Sony a7 III at the settings that I was using, for me the 𝐀𝐜𝐴 sounded a little bit too loud. It didn't sound that pleasant because everything was close to clipping, which isn't necessarily the mic's fault. It just means that I set the levels on the Sony a7 III too high, because when I brought the levels down from 3 to 1, things sounded a lot better. Everything is as low as it could possibly be. My levels on the Sony are 1, and the volume on the 𝐀𝐜𝐴 mic is 1. There's a slight breeze coming through the trees, but nothing that should be interrupting the microphone, especially with the dead cat on. And I wonder how this is going to play out, because I don't mind, you know, usually I'd have my levels at 5 or 7 on the Sony, and I would have, even when the mic's very close to me in the studio, I would have the levels at 5 or 7. Here I feel they may be a little bit more sensitive, especially when using the Sony. So I don't mind, you know, adjusting my workflow if that means I get great quality audio. And this is somewhere where I would be filming. This is somewhere where I film regularly. So I think that sounded great. That's my level of analysis that you're going to get. So what I'm going to do now is just present a load of different clips to you, shot in different situations and different settings for you to hear for yourself. The volume is at 2 on the microphone, the levels on the camera are still at 3, and again, this is not an unreasonable situation. I've recorded in this situation many times if you go back on my channel, and I'm talking as if you're literally right next to me. I'm not projecting for the camera, which is a mistake I used to make. This is actually really annoying because I've come to test these mics and it's like whenever I hit record, the wind just obliterates me, and it happens, not every time, I want to say it happens 8 out of 10 times that I try and record. So you heard that plane there going over, that's a regular occurrence for me. The wind, I've got cows coming over in the field as well. All when I press record, so I'm setting up, I'm fine, there's no one around. I wouldn't set up in a place where I know I'm going to be interrupted, okay? How good did it sound in the wind? I was like really impressed. I think my wired setup sounds better. My voice sounds fuller, partially thanks to the fact that the EVStar is a stereo recorder. Sounds great. It's a lot more discreet than the 𝐀𝐜𝐴 mics were with those big dead cats and they pull your collar down. But I am really liking the fact that I don't have to worry about the frail and the cable that I get with the Rode SmartLav Plus. It is very, very thin. I'm always worried that it's just gonna break. It hasn't so far, but I have to use an adapter with it because it's meant for a smartphone, not a recorder. So I need a TRRS to TRS adapter, which is another thing sticking out. And I'm always conscious of like having it in my pocket, and I squat down, which puts pressure on it, and it snaps. I'm always, you know, have that in my mind, and if that happened, things will just be ruined. So yeah, what I'm going to do is for the next few videos, I'm going to be giving these little things a chance. Very happy to say, well done.